Hey guys, it's soldering station review time again. This one here was sent in from my friend over at Banggood for us to have a look at. So you know, I'm always looking for stuff that will help most of you as the beginner, not for the professional soldering station or anything. You know, would be something you would want to use in a production environment, but for a hobbyist. You know, that's what I look at. And the reason why I like to do reviews like this, so I can review it, check it out, and say yes, no, you know, it's worth the money, it's not worth the money. So you know, that's why I like to do reviews like this. I review it, I give my opinion of it, then y'all can decide whether if it will work for you or not. Now, you can't beat a good Weller, Pace, Heiko, or you know, soldering stations in that line, especially in production or everyday use. But you know, I got a Xtronics 4000 series. I've had it now since I started doing videos almost 4 years ago. It's been almost flawless. Yeah, tips wear out, elements burn out, but you know, the thing has just worked great. No problems at all. Even my Radio Shack station over here that I bought when Radio Shack was going out of business, flawless unit, no problems at all. So I wanted to find something on the market that was cheaper, and this is actually a dual station. So I'm going to get it unboxed and we'll take a look at it. Okay, so here's what we have in the box. We have a 120 volt US power cord, a set of various tips for the hot air gun. We do have one square one. For the soldering iron, have the 907-907A 24 volt. It says Esd Safe, and this is the older style Heiko tip. Just change the tips out, screw off the collar. You see the tip comes right off, exposing the heating element. Now, these are the same type of irons that is on my Radio Shack soldering station, and also on my Xtronics type soldering station. They all are identical. You see, that's the original Xtronics, and I've been using this thing for about 4 years, and from time to time we do burn up the outer shell. As you can see on the main one that I use most of the time, it's looking pretty bad, so that's going to have to be replaced before long. But the Xtronics 4000 series, which is also a dual soldering and hot air gun, has worked perfectly over the past 4 years. The only thing that makes it a little hard to work with is that it actually has the pump mounted inside the unit. With this one, as you can see, the handpiece has the fan mounted in the handpiece. Well, looks pretty good, feels good. We'll just have to see how it stands up to the Xtronics series. I'd highly recommend the Xtronics 4000 series. Like I say, it has worked flawless. We have a soldering iron stand. got a little sponge, which I very seldom use sponges. I use pads. And the handle fits in it pretty nicely. No problems at all. Also, they sent this European to American adapter. I don't know why they put this in, since we have a regular 120 volts mains cord. I would have much rather had a pack of multi-tips like came with the Xtronics. But unfortunately they only sent the one tip with this, which is a conical tip, and it's pretty much useless. So we'll take this out and throw it over in the bag and put in a decent tip. And for the unit itself, you can see we have the hot air handpiece holder, and that just fits up there rather nicely. Has it at a good angle for the air can blow upwards instead of down on the bench. But yeah, that fits in nicely, no problems at all. Have our port for the iron, a port here for the hot air. Each one has a power switch, the calibration and temperature set, and digital displays for each one. I think this is either going to be probably the blower speed for the hot air. If we look at the back of it, we see just a mains input jack and pretty much nothing else on the unit. It's got a little bit of weight to it. It tells me there's a transformer in there. But what I want to do is crack this thing open, because there is one thing that I do not see on this, which is different than my Xtronics, is a mains power switch. And we do have a fuse located under the mains input jack, but there is no power switch. And most of the time I would just turn this on, take it apart before I turn it on, but I just want to verify a couple of things, so we're going to go ahead and hook it up, and I want to check a few things. Okay, the unit is all hooked up, iron, hot air. She's plugged into the AC mains, and both switches are off. And if you can notice here, you'll see the bars across the LEDs come on for a couple of seconds and go off. So this tells me that the circuit inside is still active. Now most of the time when they build these things, the only thing that is keeping this heating element from coming on inside this handle is mostly a triac. And when you turn it on, it puts voltage to it and turns the elements on and the fan on. And there's no way to kill power completely unless you come down and shut the main switch off. So, yeah, you can do that, but I would much rather have seen a external power switch. My Xtronics has a main power switch on the back of it where you can shut it completely down. And the problem with having one like these, if this triac was to go faulty, it can send voltage to your handpiece, and it could sit there and come on and heat up and eventually catch a fire. And if you're not around, it can burn your shop down. So we may have to make a modification to this thing to keep that from happening. We'll turn the thing on, is set for 436 degrees. We can raise that on up. Well, it's not Fahrenheit, it's in Celsius, so that's 480 degrees Celsius. And even with it on, you see nothing is happening. Now as soon as I take this handle off that mount, the hot air unit is now on. When I place it back in, we can see the temperature is going down. So it's going to a shutdown mode. It has cut the element off and it's cooling the element down. Let's see just how long it takes for it to cool it down. So what that means, there is a magnetic switch inside this handpiece. And if you notice, the temperature is random. I've seen it go up to 160 degrees and down to 113, 111. I'm thinking it will shut off in a moment. And there it went. I'll cut this off and just to verify that. Yep, there is a magnet in this holder. So inside here is a magnetic switch that kills the voltage to the handle. That's not too bad. I still rather see a off on switch, and that will shut the whole circuit down. As far as the soldering iron, it's at 350 degrees Celsius. And it's climbing right up. I'll go ahead and let it get up to temperature. And it's showing 350 degrees Celsius. Let's see if this conical tip will take some solder. Get it tanned up real good. No problems there. And also read in the manual that came with, and you see this is the model 8582D, but there's no name on this. And I hear after 10 minutes that with the soldering iron in the holder that this unit will shut down with no activity. I've cut the unit down so it's not putting so much heat on the tip, and I'm going to just let it sit here and run for a while and see if it does shut down. Okay, and after about 10 minutes you see that it's gone into the sleep mode, and the temperature is automatically turned down to 200 degrees C. So we'll see what happens when we take this out of the holder, and it automatically starts heating back up. So I don't know if it's a difference. This has a different sensor in it than my other two machines, but you can see, because there's nothing connected to the holder to the machine, so there must be a sensor in this also. I can't feel. Yep, there is a magnet in there. Interesting. So the reason why I wanted another hot air machine is that I'm going to moved the microscope. You know, I did have it over here in this corner, and it just seems like it wasn't a good place to have it. And right now it's sitting here on the middle of the bench, which still isn't a good place to have it. Now I'm having to run a long extension cord over to the computer for the microscope camera. And I want to keep my main system here that I use, so I'm probably going to use this with just the microscope. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and tear this unit apart, and we'll take a look on the inside and see what we have. And to get into this unit, there is 4 screws here on the bottom of it. Also notice that the handle for the hot air is riveted to the case, so you can't take it off and move it unless you take off the 4 screws here, but the bracket stays with the machine. Okay, it had 4 Phillips head screws in it. No problem to get out. And we'll go ahead and see what happens here. As the case comes off, and let's get a look inside of it. Now, as always, the first thing I like to do is look and see how the mains is wired up. And you can see our main connector does have a ground wire on it, and it is properly secured to the transformer casing, because you know the rest of it's plastic. Been nice to have a metal bottom on it, but you know, that will reduce noise and magnetic interference. Front panel just lifts right up. See a couple of calibration, like 10-turn parts for calibrating the system. And I'm gonna get this thing all unplugged. If you noticed, everything is Loctite in to keep the cables from coming off. But I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect the transformer from it so we can look at the front board. I'm going to pull the front cover off and got it just laying down here. We can see I have 2 7-segment triple LED displays. These tactile buttons are pretty huge, right hefty. No problems at all. 10K part for the flow rate of the hot air handpiece. You can see over on this side, this is where our AC comes in to the front board. And you know, for 120 volts I ain't too worried about it, but I hope the 230 volt is a little bit better than this. There's not a lot of space in between where the AC mains come in, so you know, you could be a problem with creepage voltage or arcing out here, but you know, for 120 volts I think it'll be alright. We look up here, we can see 2 terminals and a safety cap across the back of it. And really the soldering doesn't look bad at all. It's pretty good. Not a lot of flux left on the board. There's a couple of spots around these tactile buttons where you can see they were hand soldered, and there's a little flux left over, but you know, as far as the rest of it, it's not bad at all on the soldering. Let's go ahead and take a look at the back side. Okay, like I said before, I tore it down. They would be using a couple of triacs. Now, I don't know what this stuff is that they use to hold these connectors in place. This little red stuff, that is some tough stuff. It was almost all I could do to get it broke loose from these connectors just to pull those wire harnesses out. But anyway, like I said, you know, there was going to be a couple of triacs in here that's used to actually turn the heating elements off and on. Over here we have a BT137, and on this side we got a BTA16 triac. Up here we have a tip 122 NPN Darlington. Here we have a 7808. Below that we have a TM1628, and that's going to be the LED display controller. Here we have a 23F9 4C4EZZ-DK94, and this is the MCU where the programming is. And then, you know, we've got a lot of passives in here. These are Jake capacitors. Never heard of this brand before. I'm pretty sure they are just a Chinese brand. They are rated at 105 degrees C. And, you know, they do have, they're vented at the top, which is surprising, but you know, I guess they are what they are. And again, a couple of 10-turn pot resistors here for calibration. This is the safety cap that's across the mains. Over here on the bottom you can see our 2 ports and our switches to turn those off and on. Now in here in the middle there's a empty spot here, and it looks like that may be enough room in here to put a push button to turn the mains off and on. So we'll look at doing that, because you know, I don't want to have to plug it back in each time, and might forget to turn the power strip off. So I'd rather have a dedicated button on here to just turn the whole AC mains completely off. And again, here we should have a fuse. Yep, and there's a little small glass fuse. And what I can see is a 5 amp. There's also a space here to hold an extra fuse, which one did not come in it. I went ahead and removed everything out of the bottom base. We'll go ahead and cut out this square, and we're going to install this rocker switch into this assembly. Then when we're not using it, we can flip this switch, and this will take the mains completely off the whole circuit. Okay, so as you can see, I've mounted the switch. I broke the AC mains hot lead that is fused, ran it through the switch and then back up to the control panel. And the only thing I did was just move the wire from the bottom of the AC mains connector over to the switch and then put a jumper. I also went ahead and put heat shrink on all the connections so you can't accidentally hit them with your finger and get a shock. So now we took a I think this thing's roughly about 80 bucks. It's a cheap no-name soldering station, 2-in-1 soldering station, and we made it a little bit safer, not only by adding a proper power switch, but by, you know, heat shrinking the terminals inside in case you have to go into it to work on it. You can come across these leads and get a shock. And we'll get it put back together, and we'll just do a little testing on it and see how it is. Well, we're just going to go ahead and try to remove a couple of random parts. But the unit said it. Turn it down some. And we should be able to whack a part right off right quick like. Still no problem with that one. I'm going to try one of these big transistors that's soldered directly to the board. The heat sink is right on the board, soldered to it. Let's see how that goes. And no problem whatsoever. That's a big 40-pin pack here. And we took that off, and no problem on pads. Big diode over here. Lifting it off, no problem. We're going to go ahead and turn this down. To about 320. And we can try another one of these diodes. And no problem at all. I'm sitting down here is one of these big TO220 style size transistors, and I don't know if we can get that at 320 degrees, but we're going to try. Plus it's got a lot of black ballistic material holding it on. May take a little more heat. I think the solder is loose. Yeah. It's just that black glue they got on there was holding it down. So no problems at all taking that off. Put the holder back in the cradle. You can see the temperature already going down. So unfortunately, I do not have a proper probe for my meter to check the temperature of the iron, but it seems to be working okay. When I tested it out, no problems at all. Little system is not a bad system. Like I say, after making that modification, it now works like it should. We can cut it off. We can walk out the door. We don't have to worry about it. Mains power is no longer connected to the unit. So, if you got any of these systems and you're seeing these lights blink and there's no way to cut it off, I suggest adding a mains power switch to it. It could save you a lot of heartache down the road. Now, yeah, some of you might have a switch on the bench to turn the bench completely off, but if you walk out and you forget that, you ain't got to be gone long for track or something to short out and cause all kinds of terrible problems. The reason why I do a review of one of these cheap soldering irons, I know everyone cannot afford the Hakos and Wellers and Pace and all that good equipment like that. And a lot of us are starting out on a budget, and that's why I do videos like this. I'll take the piece of equipment and check it out and see how it was and make my recommendation. I think this is a pretty good system. Like I say, I wished it would come with a selection of tips instead of this adapter. But you know, I can go online, I can order new tips for this. I need to order some anyway because all these fits all three machines here, so there's no problem with that. And yeah, I'll leave a link down below to this piece of equipment. Okay, so here's the system on Banggood's website, and it is listed as US $66.81, which I think is very, very reasonable for this unit. Again, guys, you can't beat name brand system, but like I said before, can't all of you, you know, I know can afford Pace and Heikos and stuff, or you know, the price of this machine as a hobbyist, not as a professional repair business, but as a hobbyist. I think this is going to be a pretty decent machine. I'll run it through some more paces, and maybe later on in the month or two give you another update on how I feel about it. Links down below if you want to check one of these out at Banggood's site. I also have a link to other Banggood products down below that you can check out. Now I know there's going to be some that's going to jump in, haven't even watched the video, and say buy this, buy that, you know, don't waste your money on this. But you know, that's expected. But if you're in a budget, this seems to be a pretty good little system to use. Anyway, click the show more tab down for the links, and we'll catch you in the next video. Bye now. Now, speaking of cheap Chinese equipment, a friend of mine sent something in to me that I thought was pretty interesting. He bought some resistors here, and well, yellow is 4, violet is 7, and green is 5 zeros. These should be 4.7 meg. Perhaps I lost my mind. Remind YouTube viewers, test everything if it came from China. That is always a good idea, because you know, I have bought components from China that were not what they were supposed to be. So yeah, it's always a good idea to test. Let's give these resistors a test right quick. Like I say, it's supposed to be 4.7 meg. Let me see if I can get the voltmeter in view without having a lot of glare on it. I believe y'all might can see that from there. Kind of hard to tell through the screen. Yeah. We'll test this one at the bottom. 3.31 meg. We'll test the top one. 3.74 meg. So it's just about a megahertz. Well, it's just about a meg difference from what you would think they were. And I don't know how well I can get it, but you can see it's yellow, violet, green. That is what they're marked as. Yep. See it real good on the top one, yellow, violet, green. So sometimes what you get from China isn't always what it appears to be. So thanks for the viewer sending that in and reminding us of that. So that's always a good thing to know.